her that they leave their seats and walk quietly to the enclosed cloakroom at the room's front end to get their jackets and sweaters or wraps, as the nuns call them. Instead, they sat and laughed amongst themselves, proud of their refusal to obey even the slightest order that the old wrinkled, angry nun gave them. Disturbers rose, Sister Prewoznik spat out, more than the usual contempt she had for the five. They were driving her crazy with their lack of respect for her authority, and in phrase and in bold disrupted her classroom to no end and shamed the very idea of what a 7th grade Catholic schoolboy should be. They were challenging her again by refusing to get their wraps for the lunch hour dismissal. And as she half sat on the front edge of a wooden desk at the front of the room, Sister Zita made ready to respond to the challenge by grabbing her favorite a 4-foot-long wooden rubber-tipped coin. That Zeta bug, as they called it, was getting angry. Her voice loud. Those laughs seared her ears. She considered them a direct assault on her role as a representative of God, and was even more determined to wipe those taunting smiles off her 12 and 13-year-old faces. They stayed in their chairs, reveling in the glory that they knew would soon be theirs. Disturbers room! They stayed put and laughed harder. That was enough for Sister Zita. The old nun, pointer in hand, launched herself off the desk and hobbled bent over the best she could across the wooden floor past the rows of 204's good kids. The kids who always do their homework. The kids who never talked in class, who always obeyed orders. The kids who succumbed to authorities' every effort at control and who made the disturbers sick. The five had months sat amongst those annoying, properly behaved kids, but they could never keep their mouths shut, and they couldn't help but bust out laughing every time Zita gave an order or even spoke. The poor woman could not pronounce geography. She called it geography! And she used silly phrases like, Mr. Big Stuff, and you are as bold as brass, Mr. Bold. You're bold. And she tried to embarrass the kids who goofed off in class, and then she said, every time she tried to say what or what did you say, it never came out that way for Sister Zita. It came out, the what? The what you say? And so within the first few weeks, classes at Our Lady of Gratitude Grammar School on Chicago's Northwest Side, Sister Zita had identified the five: Gary Colbert, Dave Nadolski, Bob Bugajski, Richard Bozo, and Dennis Domrzalski as problem students, and put them together in the back row and labeled them disturbers in an attempt to shame them into conformist behavior. Move, though, had the opposite effect. The five wore the title disturber as a badge of honor, and felt it compelled them to be even more disruptive and antagonistic than they already were. It had long been that way for Sister Zita. She was old, maybe 70 or so, but exactly how old was really a mystery, and how had long ago lost the ability to control her classroom. For the past 10 years, the rowdier boys who went to OG prayed to get Zita as her 7th grade teacher. That's the only time they did pray. And if they did get her, well, she obliged their rebellious instincts by making them disturb. That there had been some legendary disturbers in the past. Steve Domrzalski, Frank Hopkins, Tommy Tampkin, who brought disturbing to new heights of rule-breaking, disrespect, scholastic irresponsibility, and contempt for classroom decorum. They, of course, were heroes in the neighborhood, and the five admired them, but they were individuals. They had acted alone and separately and were never able to bring the full concentration of the combined prowess to bear on the hapless nun. This year's disturbers were different. There were 5 of them, and they had the benefit of history, and they knew that Zita would soon be retiring. They were fully aware of the opportunity. They had to become the greatest group of disturbers in OLGC. To claim that coveted honor, they realized that they not only had to take disturbing to a new level, but they had to disturb as a unit, as one. And that they did, but in the first few weeks, they had all already been beaten several times by her dry, scaly hands, cracked with the pointed club, with the rung of a chair, a 4-foot-long, half-inch square, solid piece of wood that formed a crossover, classroom chairs. The beatings fueled their desire to do even more harm in the classroom, and made them heroes to themselves, at least. With every whack of Zita's hand, with every punch from her bony fist, with every thump from her chair rung, they laughed harder and disturbed more. When Zita attacked, I mean disciplined, the others stormed into action and raised ruckuses in other areas of the school. Sometimes they antagonized other students, sometimes they ran around the room screaming and laughing and stomping their feet, and sometimes they raised up to Zita and taunted her. No matter what it did, they'd always worked. Zita would stop beating her original target to chase them. And what had always started as a small-scale disturbance usually turned into a classroom-wide riot. And now it was happening again. Zita, the 3-foot, 4-foot-long standard issued nun's rosary dangling from her belt, and the starchy stench of her full-bodied black and white linen. And snotting up the room was charging towards Disturbers Row. At least she thought she was charging. Disturbers, she was limping slowly and taking forever to get there. That annoyed them because they gloried in the attention that a battle with her brought from the room to force other 34 students, especially the girls, most of whom giggled. These many rides you want. Zita was at row 3, approaching Disturbers Row from the classroom's left side. The boys held their positions and laughed louder. As she hit row 4, the 5-foot-tall nun began raising the pointer that she held in her right hand. The disturbers started talking to each other, pretending that they hadn't heard her earlier order, and that Shay didn't see her heading back towards them. The pointer rose high into the air as Zita crossed row 5, just a few steps away from Disturbers Row. Still the boys held and pretended not to see her. She walked another 2 steps and then, the pointer came down and slammed on top of Gary Colba's table by the top of Zita hadn't meant for that. No. She had swung with the intention of smashing Gary's arms as they lay folded across the top of the desk. But just at the right time, right at the right moment, he jumped out of his chair, and the other disturbers ran to the other side of the room, denying the nun satisfaction, inflicting physical pain. The other boys had done the same. They had reacted instantly to avoid Zita and the pointer, and she was angry. She shuffled slowly across the back of the room, trying to get to the side where the disturbers had fled, but the disturbers were long gone, and they had scattered like cockroaches and all over the room. Nancy was already at the front of the room, running through the drawers and Zita's desk. Nadolski had Ron and Ash in a headlock in row 2. Bozo was assaulting Bernard Julian row 5. Dumping his books on the floor. Colbo was marching around the room, stomping his feet on its wooden floor and shouting over and over, "We don't have wraps! We have jackets and coats!" Bozo had found his way to row 5, where he crouched down behind and ready for an assault on Thomas Nevin, who had annoyed Zita with his habit of loudly blurting out anything that was on his mind. And taught. If in the spelling class he had something to say about religion, well, he just shouted it, and always to the amusement of the entire class. Bozo wound up for his assault on Nevin by raising his arm behind his back as far as it would go.
Story.
Really? His right hand held the weapon, then he swung the arm forward with full fury and... Ah! Tommy Nevin shrieked so loud the world could hear. He jolted up in the air and flopped back down on his chair and wailed again while grabbing for his direct puck. Bozo had stabbed him in the ass with the pointed end of a geometry compass.
Oh my God.
Bozo had to let go of the weapon when Nevin jumped into the air, and now he tried to grab it as it dangled from his hole. Nevin writhed in pain and wiggled his butt, instinctively trying to shake the weapon from his body, all the while screaming that he had been hurt. Bozo grabbed and missed, and he grabbed again, and he missed, and finally, on the third try, he got hold of the compass, and he screamed as Bozo withdrew the 2-inch-long steel point from his flesh and scurried away. The entire room exploded. After all, hurting somebody was fun. Even the good kids laughed, and Zita now had a general insurrection. Oh, she was furious. She was furious and believed that it was another one of Nevin's outbursts, and she waddled toward him as he got up and stood next to his desk. You think you missed your big stuff? Zita sneered as she raised the pointer. You want attention just like they do? Well, I'll give you attention. She began flailing away at Nevin with the pointer and landed 6 or 7 quick blows to his back and shoulders. The poor boy was no disturber and was dumbfounded that he was being beat for having been stabbed. Thomas never saw the humor nor the and he just slumped down in his chair and covered his head and face with his arms in an attempt to protect him from Zita's repeated blows. But sister, Evan cried as she hammered him with another 10 blows. Somebody poked me with something that and I think I'm bleeding. Oh, poor little baby. The sneer that said she didn't believe him. Where's the little owie? Evan stood up and in his blunt way said, "On my ass!" With a fury that impressed even the disturber. And in just a few minutes, Thomas Nevin was sobbing. But sister, he said in a feeble attempt at gain her sympathy. But sister, don't you but sister me. Zita huffed as she continued to pound the boy. You keep quiet in my room, speak when spoken to. Otherwise, mister, you will get the back of my hand. But stir! But stir! Shouted a voice from the opposite corner of the back room. Stir! Zita wasn't prone to answer to the name of Stir, which was the disturber's disrespectful shorthand for sister, and which infuriated her as well as the other nuns. But this was a desperate situation, so she acknowledged the summons. Whoa. Stir! I saw what happened. Thomas is right. Someone poked him with something. And I think it was a compass. I think he's hurt real bad, Stir. And he might need an ambulance. If he doesn't get to a hospital soon, Stir, I think he's gonna die. The voice belonged to Dave Nadolski, one of the chief antagonists, and a disturber for whom the old nun had mixed feelings. She hated Nadolski's unceasing efforts to humiliate her, and she knew he was a disturber's ringleader, but she didn't think that the boy riled her on purpose. After all, he had a somewhat angelic face, blonde hair, and a pretty smile. And he could be nice when he wanted to. No, she figured he was mostly, he was mildly retarded, as she was for many of the working class Polish, German, Irish, Italian. So, pretty boy, which she said with more than a hint of sarcasm. So nice of you to help, so sweet of you. Tell me, mister, who did it? Who did it? Well, sir, I could only see their outline, so I couldn't think of who it was. Nadolski said vain breathlessness and an intense interest on identifying the culprit. But I saw their outline. I know it was a big person. How big? Not real big, but pretty big. Pretty real big, sir. Was it a boy or a girl? Well, it was a boy, sir, I think anyway, but maybe not. Boys don't wear dresses, and I think he had a dress on. It couldn't have been a boy. What color was the dress, pretty boy? Purple, sir, purple. No, it isn't purple here. You're right, it was green. It's a green dress. Zita was right, of course, because no one in the school wore what the nuns considered garish colors. All the students wore uniforms. Girls white blouses and dark blue plaid skirts. The boys dark blue pants and white shirts and one solid blue clip-on tie. I think it was white. Well, maybe it was yellow. Exactly, sir. Yellow, but sir, I don't think it could have been a girl. I mean, I really don't think so. Why not, pretty boy? Because she had a beard, sir. The entire class convulsed with laughter. Even Thomas never even knew that once again she had been beaten, and she was furious and determined to exact a terrible revenge on at least one of the disturbers for her humiliation. And she started lumbering towards Nadolski. Then Thomas Nevin blurted out through his tears, "Sister! Sister! It was Dennis! Dennis did it!" Whoa, Mr. Nadolski, is that true? Well, sir, I definitely saw it, and I cannot tell a lie. Dennis did it, sister! That was the perfect answer for Zita. Of course, she might have mixed emotions about Nadolski's disturbing, but she knew that Domrzalski's disruptions were the purposeful work of a mean-spirited youth who was out to get her and who was beyond redemption. In fact, he had come from a family of disturbers. His oldest brother, Mike, his oldest brother, Mike, had disturbed her class in 1962. It was his class and given her the humiliating name of Zita Bug. His brother Steve had been a disturber in 1965. He was a fiercely rebellious student who had set new standards for cruelty to her. That was 1966, and she had another disturbing Domrzalski in her room, and she finally had the reason she needed to pay him back for all the pain, suffering, and humiliation of his brothers had caused her. If his parents were set on breeding disturbers, well, she was set on beating the brats silly. Already in the short school year, she had almost blurted out that Dennis was like his brothers. She knew it wasn't true. Mike had been a reluctant disturber who responded well to beatings. Steve, a whirlwind of evil in the classroom, usually calmed down once he had lashed out at her and vented his anger. Both seemed relatively normal and happy, but Dennis, a skinny, angry-looking kid with short brown hair and thick black-rimmed glasses, was bitter and he had been a shy, sullen brooder who was, as the saying went, afraid of his own shadow. In the first grade, he barely learned how to print. He was used to raise his hand to ask questions. There. In the second grade, he crapped in his pants because he was too scared to raise his hand and ask to go to the bathroom. He was also a little slow. I mean, really slow. Sister Mary Concepta had smelled the problem that day. The frightened boy to the front of the class where she quietly asked him, "Young man, have you had an accident?" He was slow, and she was talking about a car crash. He answered answered in the negative. No. By accident. I shit my pants. Angered by what they thought was a clever plot, lost her temper, and shouted to the entire class. So the entire class, you could hear, you've had an accident, go to the laboratory and clean up. The classmates knew exactly what that meant, and they giggled and laughed at the shy boy with the leaky bowel. The embarrassment had seared itself into his memory, and he had vowed to someday get even, if not with that nun, with anyone who wore the black and white habit, the Dominican order. And so, through the discipline of ceaseless and solitary brooding sessions, Dennis had programmed himself to be the human torpedo whose guidance system was permanently locked onto nuns who wore the white and black habits. Although he really bore no ill will or personality animosity towards his species, he actually sort of felt sorry for it. Dennis operated under the code that drove many a Catholic schoolboy. Antagonize and humiliate them before they antagonize and humiliate you. Yeah, you guys got it. Had busted out of his shell in 3rd grade, and now as a disturber, he was fully prepared to live that code. Mr. Domrzalski forgot his address today. Zita said, chuckling and proudly to herself. She wheeled and turned to the boy who had been standing in the back of the room shooting spitballs at the good kids. No, sir, I haven't forgotten it. It's in the cloakroom. I'll just get it and show it to you, Dennis replied with a smirk. I think it would look good on you, sir. Oh, Zita hated being outwitted, especially by a 12-year-old boy, and she advanced on Dennis while her hand that gripped the corner twitched. Uncontrolled. Oh, you think you missed the beef? Well, I'll give you wearing a dress in my room. But, sir, I haven't even worn the dress. Why not? Afraid they'll call you a stitty? No, sir, because you won't let me go get it. No back talking to me, you little. Zita always started mumbling when she got to the point of calling the boys' names. They swore that she swore under her breath, which was something that, if it could be proven, would have been a devastating embarrassment to the nun. Please, sir, no swearing. God is listening, came a voice from the other end of the room. It was Gary Colba. And run to the other side of this room, he continued, he's in this classroom, you know. He's everywhere, and here can hear you, sister. Please, sir, set a better example for us. Zita was torn. She hated Domrzalski and wanted to crack him a few times, but she also despised Colbert for his smart aleck ways. He was the wittiest of the disturbers, and she could simply not abide it. Go to the back of the room, Mr. Colbert, Zita said, hoping to trick him into moving next to Domrzalski. Why, sir? Colbert asked, knowing why she wanted him there. She wanted him there so she could give them both at once. So I pray for you both together, Zita said. It's more efficient. But, sir, I don't want to stand next to Dennis. Why, Gary? Are you afraid to stand with a boy who wears it next to a boy who wears a dress? No, sir. Afraid that you'll get caught up in his pretty boy ways? No, sir. Then why not? Because, sir, his dress went out of style 4 years ago. And I don't want to be near someone who's so unfashionably dressed. It's embarrassing. Zita went berserk, and fueled by her outrage, she nearly ran to Dennis, shoved him against the back wall, and started savaging with the horn and punching and scratching with her free hand. Dennis escaped her grasp and ran to the other side of the room, but Kolba and Bugajski blocked his way. No. He ran to the other side of the room, only to be blocked and pushed back by Bozo and Nadolski. I guess Nadolski's everywhere. Zita pounced on him again. The beating lasted several minutes, all during which Dennis... Oh, my God! All during which Dennis and the other disturbers simply laughed. It ended when the school bell rang, signaling the noon hour for lunchtime. The nun had no choice but to let him go as the children raced out of the classroom. Dennis was bruised His arms, necks, and cheeks were scratched and bleeding slightly. He was in heaven, and so were the other disturbers.